Welcome to Gilbert and Sullivan Radio Theater. This is your host, Jerry Tracy. In each segment, we present music and dialogue highlights from the 14 comic masterpieces of Gilbert and Sullivan in chronological order. Our musical excerpts are drawn from the vast Gilbert and Sullivan Radio Theater collection, which includes great recorded classics from the past as well as modern performances. The dialogue will be performed by our own KBCS players, whose spirited enthusiasm we trust will compensate in some measure for their other deficiencies. To assist us with the historic and archival background for our traversal of the Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, we are indeed very fortunate to have with us the eminent Gilbert and Sullivan scholar, author of 7 books on the works, Dr. Alan James.
No, pardonnez-moi, but that is incorrect.
I beg your pardon?
Dr. James could not make himself available for this, how should I say, production, so I will be taking his place. Here is my card.
Oh. Dr. G. Thothwaite Pompous Arse.
Pompous-Czar. Pompous-Czar, accent on the 3rd syllable. It's Anglo-Norman, you know.
Well, Dr. Pompous,
Pompous-Czar, you twit. Say it with me. Pompous-Czar.
Yes. We thank you for lending us your expertise.
No, not at all. Glad to assist your quaint little effort here in all the many ways I possibly can.
Yes. We will begin with a favorite, The Pirates of Penzance, which was first produced in 18...
Excuse me, now just a moment. Moi understood that you would be presenting the operas in chronological order. Isn't that the format you established so giddily in your introductory comments?
That's true, but...
Well, then you can't start with Pirates of Penzance. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, that's the 5th opera, not the 1st.
Yes, I know, but...
The first Gilbert and Sullivan opera was, of course, Thespis. Your ground rules would appear to require that you begin with that, how shall I say, memorable effort.
Dr. Pompous Arse.
Pompous-Czar, you boob!
We thought our audience would appreciate beginning with a more familiar work.
Your audience? Good heavens, sir, do you actually think anyone is listening to this?
Doctor, I really think...
Your parents, perhaps, and your great aunt, Fifi, perhaps. Snore.
Ladies and gentlemen, turning now to the Pirates of Penzance.
Besides, don't you think Pirates is a bit, how shall I say, ambitious, considering the talents, or rather the lack of talents of your players here?
Doctor, perhaps you'd be kind enough to provide our listeners with some useful and informative background to aid in their appreciation of the opera.
Well, by all means, that's what I'm here for. The Pirates of Penzance, which, by the way, was the 5th GNS collaboration, not the 1st, premiered in New York of all places on New Year's Eve, 1879. As usual, the old procrastinator Sullivan had dithered shamelessly in finishing the score, and the quite unmusical Gilbert found himself finishing the score by himself. He worked feverishly until 3 a.m. of the day of the premiere, copying out the orchestra parts. Sullivan did not retire until 5 a.m. that morning. Now, perhaps your great aunt would be interested to know that
Please lead Aunt Fifi out of this.
You could be quiet now. The title of the new operetta was itself a joke. The Victorian equivalent of, say, The Pirates of Tacoma, or The Pirates of Portland, or shall I say, The Pirates of Long Beach, or again, perhaps The Pirates of Capital...
Thank you, Doctor. We get the idea.
What? Oh, yes.
Our curtain rises to discover a rocky seashore on the coast of Cornwall. In the distance is a calm sea on which a schooner is lying at anchor. It flies the black flag, pirates. Some are drinking. Some playing cards.
Jen.
You trumped me again.
Oh!
Ah, here is the pirate lieutenant, Samuel. Yes, how are you this evening? And there is Frederick on his 21st birthday. Or rather, what he believes is his 21st birthday.
Whatever do you mean, good sir?
Ah, yes, a bit later, Frederick. And there, in regal splendor, is the pirate leader himself.
Pirate King!
Oh, yes, pardon, Pirate King. The pirate glasses fill.
Yes, Frederick. From today you rank as a full-blown member of our band.
Hurrah!
My friends, I thank you all from my heart for your kindly wishes. Would that I could repay them as they deserve.
Oh, what do you mean?
Today I am out of my indentures, and today I leave you forever.
But this is quite unaccountable. For a better pirate never shipped a handspike.
Yes, I have done my best for you. And why? It was my duty under my indentures, and I am a slave of duty. As a child, I was regularly apprenticed to your band. It was through an error. No matter, the mistake was ours, not yours, and I was in honor bound by it.
An error? What error?
I may not tell you. It would reflect upon my well-loved Ruth.
Nay, dear master, my mind has long been gnawed by the cankering tooth of mystery. Better have it out at once. When Frederick was a little
Ruth?
lad, he proved
Ruth?
so young and...
Ruth! I beg your pardon, Ruth. Perhaps you can tell us what happened,
Well, yes. As I was saying, when Frederick was a lad, he was so brave and daring that his father decided to launch him on a seafaring career. I was his nursery maid, and so it was my task to apprentice him to a pilot. But being hard of hearing, I didn't catch the word aright, and instead I bound young Frederick apprentice to a pirate. You, instead of to a pilot.
Poor lass.
So I made up my mind to go as a kind of piratical maid of all work. And that is how I became a member of your crew.
We'd often wondered.
Yes.
Oh, pardon, Frederick, pardon.
Rise, sweet one. I have long pardoned you.
The two words were so much alike.
They were. They still are, though years have rolled over their heads. But this afternoon my obligation ceases. Individually, I love you all with affection unspeakable, but collectively, I look upon you with a disgust that amounts to absolute detestation. Oh, pity me, my beloved friends, for such is my sense of duty that, once out of my indentures, I shall feel myself bound to devote myself heart and soul to your extermination.
Poor lad! Well, Frederick, if you conscientiously feel that it is your duty to destroy us, we cannot blame you for acting on that conviction. Always act in accordance with the dictates of your conscience, my boy, and chance the consequences.
Besides, we can offer you but little temptation to remain with us. We don't seem to make piracy pay. I'm sure I don't know why, but we don't.
I know why, but alas, I mustn't tell you. It wouldn't be right.
Why not, my boy? It's only 11:30, and you are one of us till the clock strikes 12.
Oh! And until then, you are bound to protect our interests.
Well, then it is my duty as a pirate to tell you that you are too tender-hearted. For instance, you make a point of never attacking a weaker party than yourselves, and when you attack a stronger party, you invariably get thrashed.
There is some truth in that.
Then again, you make a point of never molesting an orphan.
Of course! We are orphans ourselves, and know what it is.
Yes, but it has got about. And what is the consequence? Everyone we capture says he's an orphan. The last 3 ships we took proved to be manned entirely by orphans, and so we had to let them go. One would think that Great Britain's mercantile navy was recruited solely from her orphan asylums, which we know is not the case.
But, hang it all, you wouldn't have us be absolutely merciless.
There's my difficulty. Until 12 o'clock I would. After 12 I wouldn't. Was ever a man placed in so delicate a situation?
And Ruth, your own Ruth, whom you love so well, and who has won her middle-aged way into your boyish heart, what's to become of her?
Oh, he will take you with him.
Well, Ruth, I feel some little difficulty about you. It is true that I admire you very much, but I have been constantly at sea since I was 8 years old, and yours is the only woman's face I have seen during that time. I think it is a sweet face.
Oh, it is. It is.
I say I think it is. That is my impression. But as I have never had an opportunity of comparing you with other women, it is just possible I may be mistaken.
True.
What a terrible thing it would be if I were to marry this innocent person and then find out that she is on the whole plain.
Oh, Ruth is very, well, very well indeed.
Yes, there are the remains of a fine woman about.
Do you really think so?
I do.
Then I will not be so selfish as to take her from you. In justice to her and in consideration for you, I will leave her behind.
No, Frederick, this must not be. We are rough men.
Rough!
Who lead a rough life.
Rough!
But we are not so utterly heartless as to deprive thee of thy love. I think I am right in saying that there is not one here who would rob thee of this inestimable treasure, for all the world holds dear.
Not one!
No, I thought there wasn't. Keep thy love, Frederick. Keep thy love.
You're very good, I'm sure.
I am. Well, it's the top of the tide and we must be off. Farewell, Frederick. When your process of extermination begins, let our deaths be as swift and painless as you can conveniently make them.
I will! By the love I have for you, I swear it. Would that you could render this extermination unnecessary by accompanying me back to civilization.
No, Frederick, it cannot be. I don't think much of our profession, but contrasted with respectability, it is comparatively honest. No, Frederick, I shall live and die a pirate king.
Oh, better far to live and die under the rain.
After depositing Frederick and his faithful Ruth on that forlorn coastline, the pirates sail off for new adventures, but not without a touching farewell to their former comrades.
Farewell.
Well, we finally got rid of Ruth.
Ruthless pirate!
I don't get it.
Before committing finally to a life of marital bliss with Ruth, Frederick asks her once again for her assurance that she is the fairest of women, which she instantly conveys. But suddenly, Frederick hears voices.
Climbing over Rocky Mountain.
Hark! Surely I hear voices. Who has ventured to approach our all but inaccessible lair? Can it be the Coast Guard? No, it does not sound like the Coast Guard.
Confusion. It is the voices of young girls. If he should see them, I am lost.
By all that's marvelous, a bevy of beautiful maidens.
Lost!
How lovely, how surpassingly lovely is the plainest of them. What grace, what delicacy, what refinement. And Ruth told me she was beautiful. Oh, false one, you have deceived me.
I have deceived
Yes,
you.
deceived me, yes, deceived
To
me.
make a long story short, Frederick, crushed by the sudden recognition that his nurse Ruth is perhaps not the fairest blossom on which human gaze has yet alighted, offers himself to any of the young ladies whose homely face and bad complexion
Well, I never.
have rendered her hopeless of ever securing a man's affection. All refuse his less than felicitously phrased offer.
Ow! Oh!
All except Maybelle.
Yes, all except Maybelle. After a very pretty ballad in which she vows her everlasting love for the young stranger,
Poor wandering one.
which unfortunately we won't have time to hear this evening,
Oh, phooey.
the pirates arrive, unnoticed. Unnoticed.
Tiptoe through the tulips.
With sudden fury and unbridled passion, they leap upon the unsuspecting maidens and announce their despicable pirate intentions to marry them all forthwith.
What?
So, like, where my pin?
No, I don't think so.
wed us all. Just bear in mind that we are wards in Chancery, and father is a major general.
We'd better pause, or danger may befall. Their father is a major general.
Yes, yes, he is a major general.
Yes, I am a major general.
And this is the cue for that most celebrated of patter songs, here performed in a montage of 6 classic versions. The true GNS buff will be able handily to identify 3. If you can identify all 6, we urge you to develop some other interests.
I am the very model of a modern major general. I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the facts historical, from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical.
I'm very well acquainted to as matters mathematical. I understand equations both the simple and quadratical. About binomial theorem, I'm teeming with a lot of news. With any simple facts about the square of the hypotenuse.
With any simple facts about the square of the hypotenuse. With any simple facts about the square of the hypotenuse. With any simple facts about the square of the hypotenuse.
I'm very good at integral and differential calculus. I know the scientific names of beings and animalculous. In short, in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, I am the very model of a modern major general. In short, in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, he is the very model of a modern major general.
I know our mythic history, King Arthur's answer paradox. I answer hard acrostic, cyberpity taste of paradox. I quote an elegiac, solve the crimes of Heliogabalus. In Königseichen flow peculiarities parabolus. I can tell undoubted Raphaels from Gerard Dawson's I know the croaking chorus from the frogs of Aristophanes. Then I can hum a fugue of which I've heard the music's dinner for.
Ooh, dinner for. Ha-ha! And whistle all the airs from that infernal nonsense pinafore. Then I can write a washing bill in Babylonic uniform and tell you every detail of Caractacus's uniform. In short, in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, I am the very model of a modern major general.
In fact, when I know what is meant by mammon and revelin, when I can tell at sight a Mauser rifle from a javelin, when such affairs as sorties and surprises I'm more wary at, and when I know precisely what is meant by commissariat, when I have learned what progress has been made in modern gunnery, when I know more of tactics than a novice in a nunnery, in short, when I've a smattering of elemental strategy. Oh, I say strategy. Oh, that's a hard one, isn't it? I've got it. You'll say a better major general has never sat at For my military knowledge, though I'm plucky and adventure-y, has only been brought down to the beginning of the century. But still in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, I am the very model of a modern major general.
And now that I've introduced myself, I should like to have some idea of what's going on here.
Oh, Papa, we...
Permit me, I'll explain in 2 words. We propose to marry your daughters.
Dear me!
Against our wills, Papa! Against our wills!
Oh, but you mustn't do that. May I ask, this is a picturesque uniform, but I'm not familiar with it. What are you?
We are all single gentlemen.
Yes, I gathered that. Anything else?
No, nothing else.
Papa, don't believe them. They are the pirates. The famous pirates of Penzance.
The pirates of Penzance? I have often heard of them.
All except this gentleman. I'm pointing to Freddy now. Who was a pirate once, but who is out of his indentures today, and who means to lead a blameless life evermore.
But wait a bit. I object to pirates as sons-in-law.
We object to major generals as fathers-in-law, but we waive that point.
Ha! An idea! And do you mean to say that you would deliberately rob me of these, the sole remaining props of my old age, and leave me to go through the remainder of my life unfriended, unprotected, and alone?
Well, yes, that's the idea.
Tell me, have you ever known what it is to be an orphan?
Oh, dash it all! Here we are again.
I ask you, have you ever known what it is to be an orphan?
Orphan.
Yes, orphan. Have you ever known what it is to be one?
I say orphan.
Orphan, orphan, orphan! I don't think we quite understand one another. I ask you, have you ever known what it is to be an orphan? And you say orphan. As I understand you, you are merely repeating the word orphan to show that you understand me.
I didn't repeat the word orphan.
Pardon me, you did indeed.
I only repeated it once.
True, but you repeated it.
But not orphan!
Stop! I think I see where we're getting confused. When you said orphan, did you mean orphan, a person who has lost his parents, or orphan frequently?
I beg pardon, I see what you mean. Frequently.
You said often, frequently.
No, only once.
Exactly. You said often, frequently, only once.
Where is that music coming from?
Alas, I hear by our closing theme from the lost opera Thespis that we must leave our characters on that rocky shore until next week at this time
Next week? We have to stand around here till then.
when we conclude The Pirates of Penzance.
I'm going to talk to my agent about this.
So am I.
Our thanks to the KBCS players. Jeff Hogan portrayed Dr. Pompuzar. Bill Mott played Major General Stanley. The King was played by John Moore. Samuel by Gary Jones. Peter Lewis played Frederick. Gary Jones played the Sergeant. Mabel was played by Meredith Hunt. Edith by Honor Moore. Kate by Deidre Kilgore. And Ruth by Penelope Ricopoulos. Our sound production engineer was Gary Davis. Our special thanks to Dan Reinking. Our musical highlights were drawn primarily from the London recording of the soloists, chorus, and orchestra of the D'Oyly Card Opera Company, conducted by Isidore Godfrey. Our 6 major generals were George Baker, C.H. Workman, George Baker at a younger age, Martin Green, John Reed, and George Rose.